see what it is. I see what it is. We're here. The sound is good. It was one button I had to play or hit. I was playing some music, but we're here and we're going to move forward with Brother Dave. And we're going to jump right into this. Matter of fact, I got to knock off my other computer. Okay. We'll knock that one out. Okay. This is going to be a phenomenal show. As you all know, Brother Dave and I go back years. While he may not be on every day or every week or every month, when he comes onto the show, he brings heavyweight information. Not just because he reads, but he has experienced so much, and he has a very unique way of tying things together. And I'll say, if you go back and listen to any of the shows that Brother Dave has done on this platform, he has always been 100% correct. Now, in listening to this particular program, you have to read between the lines also, even though he's going to bring it direct. There's a lot of things that we cannot say that they're looking to censor, all right? Brother Dave, you have been in my corner from day one. And I have to say that even in my darkest hours, you've been there for me and never turned your back on me. Even when I crawled deep into holes and crawled up and hid, you know, you always were there for me. You always not only believed in me, but you knew what I have inside my heart. And I really respect you. I love you. And I have to say that with our brother Ross, who has transitioned, we're going to do a separate memorial show for him, but I can't not mention him. And I have to say that I revere him the same way. And you both have been blessings. And since you're here with me now, I have to say that you have been a blessing to my life, a plus to my life. And you have picked me up many times when I've fallen down, when the world didn't know it. And you are a true brother. And we have a lot to talk about today. And I just want to introduce you in, talk to us, brother. And just inform us on what's going on in the world.
Yeah, can you hear me, Lance?
Yes, it sounds a little echoey. You're on the cell phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you know what I would prefer? If you can go on WhatsApp and just click on that link I gave you, it would sound a lot better. It would definitely sound a lot better.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so we'll give you a little time to come back on in.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so he's going to take a little time to come in. It's better that way. With the phone service, you just don't know. Now I'm going to tell everybody ahead of time that if there's some kind of power outage on either side, hold tight, because this show is broadcast in the cloud. And so it's not going to affect anything. What we do doesn't affect anything. We'll just rejoin it, and I'll rejoin it through my phone. So we'll do it that way. We just have to be prepared. But anyway, like I said, he's a very special man. He's been a complete brother to me, and we've shared many things we haven't shared with the whole world. And like I said, I give him the shirt off my back. I give my last dollar at my bank account. Wherever I live, my home is his home and his whole family. He's been that kind of brother to me, and I want everybody to show him that respect, even though he always shows everybody else respect. But like I was saying, the shows that he's done down through the years on this platform has been nothing short of phenomenal. And 2 years ago, we did a show that basically predicted this happening in this particular time. And he's not going to go out here and give predictions. You know, he's just going to speak the facts and where it's going to. We had a conversation this morning that was really phenomenal. And just that conversation alone blew my mind and lets me know that we are in a very crucial time. Let me tell you something. I understand everybody when they say, well, this is not my fight. Let them sit back and fight. But the bottom line is that between this fight, what's going on, it can and will spread, and it can affect the whole world. So we need to pay attention onto the things that affect us. Even if the people who are involved don't look like us, you know, they got nukes, okay? And nukes will affect us all over the world. So it would be foolish to not be concerned with what's going on around us. You know, you have two grown men fighting and you're walking your baby down the street. Do you not stay aware so those two guys don't fall down over you? Brother Dave, I see you in. Just make sure that your device is connected properly. The sound is on. And we're not showing our faces today, so just make sure the sound is on. But I see you. I see that you came in. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, let me see. Yeah, you're in, but you're not connected all the way, so it's something to do with your phone. If you can hear me. if you can hear me. All right, let me see what I can do. Let me see. I already sent it to him. So he has a link. He's here. Like I said, hold tight, family, because this is going to be, it's going to be very, very mind-boggling and informative. Brother Dave, you got to connect your mic and your cam. You don't have to connect the cam, but you have to connect that before you can be added to the stream. I have a banner up, so we're both private. We're going to get into the information. Chat room, I love you. We'll say hi and hello and all the acknowledgments, but we got to jump on this right away because other people come into the show. If we don't get to the point right away, they'll leave, but we have delays anyway. Brother Dave, try to file back in. Let me call him. Let me see if I can get him on the phone. See if I can get him on the phone. And until then, I'll just continue to play some music. That's him right now.
The bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Can't be a real, might get you canceled. The whole system need to dismantle. Coppers treated like the utmost wanted. Trying to rule the block, but don't know what goes on me. News got a story with a new take on me. Carrying out the window with the screw face on me. But I know that God love me when my burn. 95 degrees and I can't get sunburn. Wonder when your government will make me legal. Burn the whole city if I can't be equal. Get off my please, Brad, I earn that. 400 years, how you still ain't learned? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Shout out to the trying to gentrify the genre. Tell them free my middle finger to your honor. In the days coming down the seconds on the timer. Goofy still trying to purchase that designer. About to buy, learn to grow my own food. Cause I don't like the look they give me in the Whole Foods. And when you stay ready, you ain't got.
Yes, Brother Dave, I can still see you, but you're gonna have to come out and come back in. Definitely come out and come back in. Because if I have you on the phone, it's gonna sound kind of echoey, and I want you to have the good audio. So disconnect and then come back in if you can hear me.
I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.
Okay, he logged out. He's going to log back in a few seconds, and hopefully we can get going. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Barbara Webster, I see you're on Facebook. If you want to come on in and join the YouTube group, log out from Facebook and come over to YouTube on the LANCESCURV page. Brother Dave, I'm seeing you the same way, but you have to look at the controls there. Yeah, you got to connect the mic or cam. It's the same thing, and I won't be allowed to let you in until. So listen, Brother Dave, just call me on the phone. We'll see how that sound goes. Call me on the phone. Yeah, ring my phone. Because he's very clear on this. And again, I'm going to say that all of the shows that we've done before, he's been on point, and I'd have to say 100% correct in how things turned out. And we spoke about this time period in a show about 2 years ago, and I have to go back and listen to it because he was dead on point with that also. So he's going to try to come in the way that I told him to, but if that doesn't work out, he'll just call into the phone. So we're going to give it one. See if those prompts can let you in. If not, just give me a call, and we'll pipe you in that way. Thank you, Dixie. Thank you, Dixie Nelson. I love doing what I do too, and I love it more because I'm serving my people. Thank you so much. And again, pardon me for being so rude not to address everybody, but I want to jump into this. This is like, it's like being at ringside, right? And I feel like I'm in the ring. So, okay, here he is calling. All right, Brother Dave, let me pipe you through, brother. Okay, let's see.
I couldn't get it. Somehow it wouldn't let me get out of that.
Well, now the sound sounds better with you on the phone. It was a little echoey before.
Yeah.
Let me just pull this sound down.
I think because I had it on speakerphone. That's why that was. So I took it off a speaker. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just check with everybody in the chat room, and let me know if you can hear Brother Dave quite clear. Sounds good to me. It should sound good to you.
It does.
Yeah. Let me get a little feedback in the chat room, and we're gonna flow. Just give me a second, because can you hear him? Just say yes. If you can hear Brother Dave, just
Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I can hear you loud and clear. I'm just making sure that everybody else could.
Okay.
On the actual broadcast. Okay. Onika says it sounds good. Sister Clean says clear. Thank you, everybody. And even though it's 22 minutes in, better late than never. It's beyond our control. We have 105 people listening to us right now, probably more than that. You know how YouTube does it. So we're gonna start this all over again. Maybe in the rebroadcast, I'll cut everything else out. So we just start right here. So anyway, I just want to say, Brother Dave, like I said before, you've been a brother to me beyond and over and above, and down through the years, it's been that kind of bond. And times when I went through really, really rough times, you've always been there for me, never turned your back on me. You're a true friend, a true brother, and you have such a high moral compass, and you're cool at the same time. You're understanding at the same time. You're a ride or die brother. And I have to say that wherever I have a home, you have a home. Whatever resources I have, you're welcome to them. Your whole family, whoever. Because you prove yourself to me. Very few people have proved themselves to me in this lifetime. And I have to say, man, the way you've been down just through the years, phenomenal. My own blood brother, I don't even have a connection with him like that. You know what I mean? So it's not about the blood, it's the spirit, because we're true brothers. And like I said, what your knowledge, your experience, the depth of your experience, which goes far beyond anything I can comprehend. Every show that we've done, it's been on point. Every show that we've done has been 100% correct. And 2 years ago, we spoke about this time period, and here we are right here. And I can't wait to go back into that show to listen to it. And I'm telling everybody who's listening to this right now, I'm not amping it up. It is what it is. Once he speaks for like 90 seconds, you'll know that he is the truth. And what he says today, you better take his gospel. He ain't no preacher. He's not out here to try to get money out of you for a Rolls Royce and alligator shoes. He's a brother who cares. And like I said, once again, I'm going to say, you know, praise is due to Brother Ross, who transitioned, a brilliant scholar, father, husband, brother, all the good things that you can say. And we're going to do something separate to just exemplify what he has been on this level, and the spirit still goes on, especially through Brother Dave. Brother Dave, come on in, man. I could run my mouth all night long. You know, I had to Don King it for a while. Just come on in and talk to us. Start out wherever you want to start, man. I'm just so good, feeling so good that we're here right now. And again, if we happen to have a power outage, everybody in the chat room, bear with us, because this program is in the cloud, but we're on the earth. So we're going to have to switch up phones and do different things and get back on. And again, Brother Dave, if for some reason there's a power outage, go to that link and it should work, and I'll bring you on in. But we're not dealing with any of that right now. Come on in, brother. The floor is yours. You're not a guest. You're a family member. This is your home. You can go in the fridge. You can drive the car. You can pick what bedroom you want to lay in. Your family, give it to us raw.
Definitely. And first and foremost, Lance, it's always good to hear you and just to reconnect our overall bond and connection. You know, it's so funny. You know, we met we first started speaking about 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago. How fast
I know.
You know, it goes by. And I remember the first time that I heard you, and then when you heard us on Blackonomics.
Yes.
I was the co-host of Blackonomics in Atlanta, and you reached out to me, and right away, you know, when someone reaches out to you, you instantly know that energy and that vibration of that person. And I knew right away that you were sincere. And I remember the first time that we spoke on the phone, where I was coming from. I was actually coming from Seattle, Washington. It was just when the Ebola outbreak hit the U.S. and it was in Dallas.
Isn't that something?
And I was driving and we were talking and we connected from there, and we just grown our relationship, you know, just from there on, and it's going to continue.
Yes, it will.
And I would just like to say, you know, Brother Rise made the great transformation. He took his elder, position as an elder to lead us and to guide us.
Yes.
Is actually 1 month ago today when we had Rise's services back in New Jersey. And as Lance said, that we're going to have, I've already spoke to his wife and his son, and they definitely are looking forward to coming on and speaking to everyone, because Rise was more than Rise was and is. I remember countless conversations, as you had countless conversations with Rise. Rise and I really, became very close. He would come on to my show every day, Tando radio show. Every day, Rise was there. And we developed a great friendship and a brotherhood and a warrior's bond.
Yes.
You know, when we have the show with Rise's wife and son, we'll speak more about it. But we would be remiss not to thank this brother, because he had the same passion that I have in getting our community as prepared as possible.
Yes.
And, that was our overall call. And Rise really fulfilled it. And I will wait until we have the actual Rise. Just phenomenal brother, knew what was going to happen way before it. And I will tell you, he gave me great instructions on if he was to make the great transformation, and we carried that out completely as the brother had asked me to do. And Lance, I will tell you, of a lot of the radio shows and the radio personalities and the internet personalities, because Rise had his own show with Jenna.
Yeah.
And Jenna, I'm going to reach out to Jenna and see if Jenna would come on. I'm pretty sure he would. So I will tell you, Lance, Rise had just absolutely love you.
Oh, thank you,
and because you guys were both grew up in New York, I grew up in New York and New Jersey as well, but y'all actually grew up in the city.
Yeah.
And your connection was much more, sound, because y'all knew some of the same people. Y'all had some of the same, acquaintances, and some friends even. And so you guys were always just a couple of degrees from separation, and man, this brother was the smartest man and the smartest person I've ever known.
I'll say so. I'll say so.
And just well, I mean, the brother is well versed. He taught me so much. And we had a great trade-off. I taught him about the precious metals.
Yes.
And he gave me the comedic way and path of our life and our past, our ancestral, rituals and our ancestral direction.
Yes.
And there was no one more thoroughly qualified in spirit, in intellectual capability, but more important than passion. Roz had the greatest passion, has the greatest passion for our people. And at this time, I'm not surprised that he's made the great transformation, because he's graduating into his ancestral position as an elder to guide us.
Right.
And it's just amazing. And looking forward to doing that show with his family. You being a part of the family.
Yes.
Yes.
As long as it takes.
And we will.
Whichever way they want to do it. Graphics, pictures, presentation. Hey, tell me, and I'll have it done the way you want it, and the way that they
definitely
want it.
And I know that for all of you that Roz was on Lance show a couple of times.
Yes.
And anyone that ever heard Roz speak, you understand that you're dealing with and you're hearing from the vibrations of our ancestors.
That's right.
That brother is that vehicle, and he continues to guide us to this day. And Roz and I used to talk all the time about where we are geopolitically and the overall, because Roz and I both were preppers, and we both, complemented each other in that. And so, we are in a position, Lance, we did a show roughly about 4 years ago about global nuclear war 1.
Yeah.
And it was GNW1. And I will start off by saying, everyone, that World War III has already started a while ago. And World War III has now graduated into global nuclear war 1. And the reason why it's global nuclear war 1, which a lot of the pundits and a lot of the mainstream media and a lot of the, even in the overall social media space, they haven't caught on to how serious and what's really going on. And I have to say this, first and foremost, there's no such thing as governments fighting each other. The Russian government is not fighting the Ukrainian government. This is what happens. Government officials, and I want you to think about this real quick, and Lance, and you know this, you've been to a couple of countries, you've been to some third world countries, you've been to some second world countries, and you've been in some first world countries. And in your third world countries, if you look at some of the poorest countries on this planet, if you look at their government officials, their countrymen may be poor, but the overall government officials are never poor.
That's right.
When have you ever seen a poor government official?
That's true.
When have you ever seen a poor government official? I will tell you, never. Because this is how it works. Governments are there just to establish control, to fix and establish control through subjugation, disenfranchisement, so that people will follow their very directions. And I will tell, and I've said this so many times on so many actual shows with Lance.
Yes.
If you play by their rules, they will rule. And I'm going to tell you, this is the rule that they're going to give you. They're going to give you laws that they don't have to obey. They're going to create debt that they don't have to pay. And they're going to declare wars that they don't have to fight. And what happens is that the citizens are the ones that have to do that. And that's what's happening, because Germany so-called lost the war. But guess what? The government of Germany was not interrupted. It was the people of Germany that were. And it's the same thing on both sides. And until we as the global human society and community starts to realize that government is inimical to our interests, we're going to continue to have famines, diseases, and wars. And that's where it really starts. And so where we're doing now, there's always empires. Every empire will die because the system needs empires to hide the real controlling of resources that are able to maintain people's allegiance and obedience. And when someone controls resources and it can cut you off from resources, that's how they're able to control your obedience. And what happens is we give it up willfully. And we've walked away from our birthright. We've walked away from our overall, the greatest opportunity at prosperity that the great creator gave us in the ecosystem. We walked away for something called civilization that ain't civil at all. It's barbaric. And this is the times that we're seeing. And the moment we start to have a real awakening, when we start to have a real awakening and understanding how valuable we are and how valuable our energy is, all we have to do is we can stop everything now. All we have to do is remove our energy from it. Because if we remove our energy from the system will die. The system is only able to maintain itself because we energize it. And whatever we give energy to, we give life to.
Yes.
Whatever we give energy to, we give life to. So I wanted to lay out, Lance, and anytime, Lance, definitely always jump in, because we've been doing this for a while. You've been watching this. This is one of the reasons why you made the overall transfer that you made. Right.
Yes.
And so we know. So at any time, jump in.
Yes.
But here's where we are.
I want you to flow.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want you to flow. I'm going to be quiet. I want you to flow. I'm going to mute myself while sitting here because I want to get all of this. And I want you to zone out and go in. Okay. So I'm here with you.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Let's go.
So we, I had reached out to Lance and I said, hey, it's really time. And as you look at some of our old shows that Lance and I have done, this is pretty much what we've always been talking about. This is what we've been trying to get our community prepared for, because it's so important that our community is prepared, because our community is the overall foundation of human establishment here on this planet, on this living planet. And if we can refocus our overall energy to what's truly sincere and what's truly eternal, and then we will stop giving energy to carnal, temporary things. And that will give us a overall ability to be able to no longer to be deceived. No longer to be deceived. And what I really want to just open up to y'all is just to give you an idea of what my opinion of this was. And we called this 4 years ago on the show with Lance, that we said that, hey, from everything that was going on in the world, that they're setting up for a major, major confrontation so that they can take down one empire to establish another empire, because the empire state is meant to be a breaking point. Once people start to get a level of awareness, what happens is they allow an empire to crash through historic events and reestablish a new empire so that people are tricked again. And that's where we are now. And I will tell you, this is basically what I'm seeing. The system has decided that the empire of the US, of the United States, Corporation of the United States of America, will no longer be the leading government that is able to set financial, geopolitical, and social policy around the world. Just as the Roman Empire never really died, right? It just reinvented itself and reconstituted itself into other splinter off of government entities. And so right now, this whole thing is about the fall of the empire of the US. And why is that so important? Because if they have the empire of the US to fall, and I will tell you this system does not care about nationality. It doesn't care about race, color, or creed. It doesn't care about that. The only thing that this system cares about is controlling and subjugating people so that they can enrich them and give them a measure of prosperity and a measure of wealth that they can't work for themselves. They steal the energy by manipulating the will of people so that they don't have to work, then other people do for them. So the empire of the US has reached its overall point of its peak in its overall reign, and it's time for it to fall so that the next empire can rise. And that next empire that I believe is going to be out of the Eurasian and Asian community, where you would have Russia and China to now be the predominant empires. And they will go to war with each other over the spoils of the war that's about to come out now. So why do I say that? Here's what's happening. We're going to start with just a little of the reported in history of the Ukraine and everything else. Okay. But before we start, I want you to just think about this. And you all, especially here, everyone here knows that the United States, the Corporation of the United States, has been nothing more than a actual government entity of conquering entity. If you look at the United States right now, and you would ask most people, what is the United States? What is the United States of America? A lot of people say, you say, what is America? Well, first and foremost, there's no such thing as America. Okay. There is the United States, the Corporation of the United States of America. Yes. But what is that? Now, most people would say, what's the overall landmass of the United States? Most people would say, and how many states does it have? Most people say it has 50 states, and Puerto Rico being a territory of it that's not received statehood, but it's a part of the United States. Now I would say, okay, great. And when you look at the map of the United States, including with Hawaii and Alaska, if you look at that map, the United States hasn't been that way for about maybe almost 100 years. It was only for that since they purchased, since the purchase of Alaska and, Hawaii, right? But it hasn't, when you think of the continental United States and you think of a map of the United States, you think of the 50 states, but that's not the United States. Here's the United States. United States has bases in 80 countries. And it has roughly around about 800 military bases around the world. That is the United States. That's the empire of the United States. Because for every country that has a U.S. base on that, over in that country, is basically a state, a unrecognized state of the United States, because the United States tells them exactly what to do, where to be, and their military is there to enforce it. So the United States isn't what they try to show you that it is. It is what you already known that it is. It is a land that has been, it is manifest destiny. It is a land that has been built off of subjugation and conquering by force. It's the greatest purveyor of violence ever. And that is what it is. Think about it. It's in 80 countries. They have over 800 bases in 80 countries. Do those countries tell the United States what to do, or does the United States tell them what to do? You know they tell them what to do. That's why their base is there, and that's why their sphere of influence is there. Now let's take a look at Russia. Russia has 21 bases in about 12 countries. 21 bases in about 12 countries outside of the territorial borders of Russia. So you tell me, who is the aggressor here? Now, if you look at, this is what happened. Back in the 60s when Kennedy was president. And what happened was, and Nikita Khrushchev was the head of state in Russia. What happened was the U.S. was doing back then what they tried to pull off now. But Nikita did a different thing. Nikita told them the U.S. started deploying nuclear weapons in Europe, Italy, and in the NATO nations, Italy and a couple of other places. And Khrushchev said, hey, you are starting to put your overall military and your nuclear weapons too close to our country. You are trying to close in on us. And what happened was they told them to back off. And they told them no. There was the exact same thing that Vladimir Putin said to the U.S. He's saying we need security guarantees in writing that you're going to pull back and never allow the Ukraine into NATO, and so that you don't put your overall so-called defensive weapons, which they would be offensive and you wouldn't know, nuclear, put them in that country, and now we wouldn't be able to respond to a military kinetic energy or conflict, because you would be able to put nuclear weapons there, and we would not be able to defend ourselves because the flight time of those weapons would be too short. So mutual defense or mutual annihilation between mutual deterrence between the two would be lost. So they told them to move the nukes out of Europe. They wouldn't do it. So what did Khrushchev do? He sent nuclear weapons to Cuba. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. was like, that's unacceptable. You're too close, because they were 90 miles from the United States. That's too close. So they said you have to remove those nukes from Cuba. And they almost went to war over it. And what the Khrushchev said, and what the Kennedy said, there was a backdoor deal. And they said, we'll remove those nukes from there if you will remove yours from Cuba. And what did Nikita say? Cool. That's what our agenda was. They pulled the missiles back. But see, when back in the 60s, it wasn't cool and it wasn't okay for Russia to put nuclear weapons in Cuba, but they were going to have them in the Ukraine, which would have been even closer than Cuba, but it was okay for them to do that, for the United States to do that. And what happened was, from there, what happened was that NATO started to go into a cold war against Russia. And what they did was they destabilized Russia first economically. because Russia is like the third largest producer of oil and natural gas in the world. They're one of the leading members of OPEC. The leading members of OPEC are Venezuela has the largest oil reserves. This is why they're getting attacked by the U.S. Has the largest oil reserves. Russia has the next, and Saudi Arabia has a significant amount, and Iran has a significant amount of oil reserves, Iraq and the other nations as well. So Russia is a part of OPEC. So what they did to nullify Russia was, I always say this, the United States got inebriated in the wine of splendor of being a conquering nation and it being profitable to them. So they got drunk off of the blood and the resources that they were able to steal from other countries. Because why were they able to do it? Because they were the only nation that had nuclear weapons, or they were the leading nuclear weapon country in the world. Remember this, the United States is the only country that's ever used nukes against another country. And that was in Japan. And when they did that, think about it. It was actually an act of terrorism because they dropped a nuclear device on 2 cities. And they weren't military installation. They weren't attacking the military. They were attacking the people. And most people say, well, they should, Japan shouldn't have started Pearl Harbor. Well, you don't know about history that the U.S. had embargoed Japan so it couldn't get oil. So that was an act of war. Remember this word, an act of war. So Japan was forced into this, else they were going to starve. No goods was coming in. History doesn't tell you about that, but that's the actual truth. It wasn't that Japan initiated an attack on the U.S. That's the propaganda that they want you to think. What actually happened is that the U.S. had an embargo against Japan, so Japan couldn't get the life necessary resources to sustain their economy and maintain their way of life. So they had no choice but to go to war and to attack them. And they didn't sneak attack. They told them they were coming. And why did the U.S. want this? Because they had just got a bunch of Nazis out of Germany through Operation Paperclip to come into the United States with Robert Oppenheimer to develop nuclear weapons in this country. And it was because of the German Nazi scientists that they were able to break the overall ability, have the technology to enrich uranium to be able to weaponize it. So they got that from their relationship with the Nazis. Wait a minute, remember that as well. What did Putin say that he wanted to get on the 22nd when he started this overall special operation, military operation? What did Putin say? He wanted to demilitarize and he wanted to denazify the Ukraine. You know why? Because he's right. He's right. And the United States has been in bed with the Nazis every since, and since the Nazis is not a political party, it's actually a cult. They actually have been funding that cultism of Nazism since it started in Germany. If you look at the financiers, some of the major ones were coming out of the United States. One banker that was for the Nazi party, along with the Pope, the Roman Catholic Pope, and other major institutions, was Prescott Bush. He was the Nazis' bankers, where he actually was their banker and getting them the investments that they needed to further their agenda. The same Prescott Bush, whose son later became president, named George Bush, and grandson George Bush II becomes another president. That's a Nazi tie to Germany. A lot of people don't know that. And so when Putin says he's trying to denazify, who was one of the staunchest allies of Ukraine right now? It's the U.S., because it was through that Nazi relationship. And I would tell you something about Russia. Russia is not going to allow Nazism in their overall in their backyard ever again. They lost 1 million citizens fighting the Nazis in Stalingrad, in the Battle of Stalingrad. This is part of what's happening. So what happened was this. What happened was the U.S. had started to have financial warfare against the Soviet Union. And what they did, because at that time and still today, Soviet Union's and Russia's source of revenue for their country, the lion's share of it was in oil and natural gas. A very large percentage of their economy is based off of oil and natural gas. And they have a plethora of oil and natural gas in their country. One mistake that they made was selling Alaska to the United States. But I guarantee you, after this ordeal is over, they're going to be taking Alaska back. And Alaska itself is a great producer of oil for this country now. So what they did was they were able to manipulate the price of oil down to $10, and they went into that agreement with Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia was an ally of the United States to bring oil down to $10 a barrel. That nullified Russia's economy. So in 1991, the Soviet Union basically went bankrupt because oil was at $10 a barrel. And so what happened was they had to break up, and the first country to leave the Soviet Union in 1991 was the Ukraine. And the significance of the Ukraine is very important because it was one of the leading manufacturers and is known as the breadbasket of Europe. So so Soviet Union and the Ukraine, that was a very significant part of their overall GDP, gross domestic product, was leaving when the Ukraine left. The Ukraine left in 1991 under the agreement that they would have to give up all of the nukes back to Russia, which they did, and they severed that ties. The tie between that land is, Russians have been living in that land for so long. So they left. But one of the things that was very important, Crimea, which was a part of the Ukraine, it was actually Khrushchev, who was Ukrainian himself, gave Crimea to the Ukraine when he was the head of state in Russia, because he was Ukrainian himself. So he gave it to that part for Crimea to be recognized as part of the Ukraine and still a part of the Soviet Union, but he gave that to the Ukraine. Okay, so now that brings us up to where we are now. Very important. So the Ukraine since 1991 has been its own independent country, and it kind of had a battle between those that see themselves as Ukrainian and those that see themselves as ethnic Russians. There was there's civil squabbles between that inside of the country, and it's been going on for a while. So we come around to 2014. In 2014, their president was Viktor Yanukovych, and Yanukovych was approached by the United States and said, hey, we would like to get you to become more in line with our Western ways, and we would like to fund you. Yanukovych heard the deal that they were going to give him because the United States with NATO was starting to expand NATO's outreach, because they had an agreement with Russia after the Russian Empire fall that they would not move NATO 1 inch eastward towards Russia. And then what did they do? They added Estonia, Romania, and all the other countries that came in after 1994. 1991. Those countries were not supposed to be a part with the agreement that the U.S. and NATO had with Russia for them not to expand 1 inch eastward. but they let those countries join. And at that time, Russia was not in the position to defend itself. Russia was smart. They realized that they were dealing with a drunken, unmoral country and government. So what did they do? They allowed them to continue to do what they were doing while they were going to asymmetrically outmaneuver the U.S. for a tactical advantage to where they are now. So that was the original agreement, that they weren't supposed to have NATO, any more NATO states move towards at that time. And Lance, you know, sometimes if you're not in a position to fight, it's better just to go ahead and lose that battle. But remember, re-strategize yourself to when you're more capable of defending.
That's right.
Yourself.
That's right. Live to fight it another day.
Boxers do it all the time. So brings up to 2014. They make a deal. They try to make a deal with Yanukovych. Yanukovych, here's the deal that NATO and the U.S. Is trying to give them. At the meantime, the U.S. is sending in billions of dollars of humanitarian aid. Whenever the U.S. sends in billions of dollars of humanitarian aid, it is really a cover for military coups and military advantage. So they start bringing in the overall humanitarian aid into the Ukraine because it was still a relatively new country and developing itself. And so what happened was Yanukovych went to Vladimir Putin. Says, hey, Putin, they want me to join NATO. They want me to have more alignment with them. What do you think? Putin said, well, I'll give you $30 billion in loans to do whatever you need to do in your country, and you tell them no. Yanukovych went back to NATO and the US and said, hey, guys, guess what? We're more ethnically aligned with Russia, so we're going to stay with Russia. And I'll tell you probably what happened. Vladimir Putin laid out, Victor, this is what we're doing. This is what we're developing. This is where we are. If you go with us, you'll be fine. And he saw that they were true and right. So he went back to the U.S. and said, hey, the deal that you offered me, no, I'm more connected with Russia, so I'm going to go with Russia. Signed the deal with Russia, got the $30 billion in loans, and immediately, shortly after that, the U.S. started flooding cash into the country, just like they tried to do in Kazakhstan recently, paying people to be protesting and destabilizing the Ukraine. Then all of a sudden, there was an uprising in the Ukraine that was sponsored and funded by Western financing and Western governments to decapitate the Ukrainian government with Victor at the president. So what happened was, in 2014, there was the coup, and they kicked Victor out. And guess who takes over the government? Remnants of the Nazi fascist Nazi party of the Ukraine. And they got embedded all in the government and embedded all in the military. It's no secret to the world. All you have to do is look at it and you'll see it. It's there, it's been there. But they try to hide it. See, they don't tell you that here in the States because they don't want you to know that they never broke that overall relationships with the Nazis, because Hitler himself was marveled at how the U.S. was able to manipulate and subjugate people through Jim Crow. So what did he do? He copied it. Where did he get instructions from? The U.S. They said, this is how you do this with people. They taught him. So you have the coup in 2014. They kick Victor out. He goes into exile. Immediately during that time, the Sochi Olympics was going on. Immediately, and Vladimir Putin sent a message to the world on February the 15th of 2015, as to how and what he was going to do. And he did it in a very, very strategical way. And I knew what he was doing. He gave out a gold medal that was on the anniversary of a meteorite striking Russia, and it killed a bunch of people. And it is the rarest gold medal that there is. Was because it's a gold medal with pieces of the meteorite that struck 1 year earlier.
Wow.
And right then and there, that told me that he was going to take over by way of, by a certain way. I don't want to say too much, but it was a message to the real rest of the world. What he was going to do. He was going to, because that meteorite, it had everything to do with symbolic of the meteorite striking Russia. So what happened was, so in Sochi Olympics, as soon as the Sochi Olympics was over, this is why I knew that he would start right after the Olympics was over in China, because they don't want to have an international incident in one of their allies' countries. So he waited until that was over, but knew he was going to do it. As soon as it was over, he moved and took Crimea back. And it was important to take Crimea back because it is a port city that's necessary for their overall naval armada. So now, right away, everybody's saying, hey, they annexed Crimea. That was theirs anyhow. Once the coup happened, it was the coup that started it. And then immediately, the overall Ukrainian government started attacking Ukrainians that identified themselves as Russians in the eastern part of the country known as the Donbass. So they immediately start shelling them and they immediately start attacking them. And they've been at war with each other since 2014. But this part they don't want to tell you about. So they were attacking. So Russia came in to help them to fight the Ukrainian government off, and it's been building up ever since. So now, comes up to where we are right now. But before we go into where we are right now, and then on February the 22nd, Vladimir Putin starts the overall special military operations. Once the Donbass region of the countries asked the Duma, that's the Russian Congress, and Vladimir Putin to accept them, to recognize them as an independent nation, country, and then for them to align themselves back with Russia. Once that was done, that's when he sent in the overall troops. Now, when he sent in the troops, there was a global outcry on social media and everywhere else against Russia, saying, hey, their international law that they broke and everything else. I remember there was a general, a retired general, on one of the major mainstream media networks. I believe it was Cerebrally Naive Network. Pretty sure you can figure out who that is. And he said that if there's one military soldier, 20 military soldiers or 12 military soldiers or any amount of military soldiers that go into a country unannounced, that is an invasion. What Vladimir Putin did was invaded the Ukraine. But hold on. Lance, when did Syria invite the U.S. military into Syria?
They never did.
They never did. So the U.S. So this here this is the overall. The U.S. is calling Russia an international lawbreaker, but they've been doing this very same thing, and there's no outcry. Where was the global outcry against the U.S. when they invaded Syria, sent their military into Syria to steal their oil?
That's right.
And they did it they said they're doing it under the pretense of terrorism. No. That's invasion.
Exactly.
And in Afghanistan and also in Iran. In Iraq. Yeah. Iraq told the U.S. government that they needed to leave, and they haven't left. That means you're occupying force, you're invading. And not only that, when they went into war against Saddam Hussein, they went into war against Saddam Hussein under false pretenses. Colin Powell sat there with a vow and said that they're there to develop nuclear weapons of mass destruction, knowing that they were lying. But where was the global outrage? Where was the overall mustering of all of the world to sanction the U.S. for doing that? No one would want to sanction the U.S. because the U.S. controls the overall sanction levers. But Vladimir Putin is an invader that's illegal. No, what he's not. He's not. In my opinion, here's what he's doing. Vladimir Putin realized that, and this is going to be how it's going to affect us here and why we should be preparing. Vladimir Putin realized that the U.S. is very easy to defeat, and the Russians have known this for a while. One, give them what they want, and they will engorge themselves into a stupor, morally, mentally, and socially. And that's exactly what they did. Russia played their cards. Remember, Vladimir Putin was a KGB officer, and his overall responsibility was East Germany. So he knows the U.S. military very, very well. And he knows the overall thinking of them very, very well. So what did he do? This is what he did. What they did was this. They secured their finances, but more importantly, they realized that if we do not do something and position ourselves soon, the U.S. will have a coup in Russia like they did in the Ukraine and like they tried to do in Kazakhstan in January. So how did that work? Here's what happened. Vladimir Putin and Russia went on a breakneck journey to get Russia out of debt, to secure resources. And this is what he was trying to do with Muammar Gaddafi. He told Muammar Gaddafi, wait, we're not ready yet. But what did the U.S., what did Obama do? What did the U.S. do? They invaded that country and killed him. Right? Invaded that country and killed him. So there's a bunch of countries that the U.S. has done this very same thing too. Right? Without recourse or necessity. Vladimir Putin is doing this because guess what? If they don't do it, he's dead and Russia's dead. So now, what they realize is that we have the overall force that the world needs, so we're going to get them addicted to him. What he did is he became the pusher even more. Because he was out of the officer in Germany, he had already had ties into Germany. So what did they do? They got sweetheart deals to move oil and natural gas into Germany, and it spread out all through Europe. If you look right now, from Italy to many of the countries in Europe, they need Russian oil and gas for them to survive. So what did he do? He got them stuck on a pipeline. They built the Nord Stream 1, and now they're almost completed Nord Stream 2. So now, what did he do? He just positioned himself to be immune from being able to be taken out by the U.S. financially. Where did he learn that from? He knows that from when? In 1991, when he was a KGB officer, when the Soviet Union got brought down, he knows how they brought him down. He was there. So what did he do? Check. He fixed that. So now if you look at Europe now, most of the countries in Europe are either 60 to 80% reliant on Russian oil and natural gas. If Russia cuts off the natural gas and oil to Europe right now, in order to feed the appetite just to start their economy, they would need to have 17,000 or 18,000 tankers a day offloading oil and natural gas to them. They don't even have that many tankers on the planet. And that's just to start their economy. So he's got them there. In Germany, in France, know it. So does Britain. So does Britain. So now, so he got them there. So now One of the things that's very important, you should never build anything that you can't protect. So they built this overall system, and what they did is they had to protect it. And if you know anything about the Russians, they're the only ones in space right now. They got the International Space Station that's there. They were the first ones in space, right? So what they did was they developed hypersonic glide missiles. Now, once they developed that and made it operational, now Russia was ready. In 2008, at the financial crisis, Russia and China had a discussion as, is this the time that we go with dropping the US dollar and then invoking more pain on the US? And they both agreed that they're not ready yet. So then they both realized they weren't ready yet because they didn't have the technology now. In today's world, there's only 3 countries that have successful glide hypersonic missiles. Every country that has nuclear weapons, all of their nuclear weapons are hypersonic. But the difference between today's technology is this. For the few that have it, Russia is the only one that has it deployable in the field, which they activated today to be used. So what happens is this, in a ballistic missile, it goes up and comes down on a trajectory. So you can kind of figure out where to intercept it, even though it's going at hypersonic speeds. Right. So it's easier to knock out and hit. With a glide missile, it moves. So it could go left, right, up, down, and move. If it's moving, you never know how to course it to be able to strike it. And remember, this thing is moving at over 200 miles per second. Your time is short. So the U.S. doesn't have that technology yet. China has tested. They're going to have it soon. And you know who the other country is, Lance?
Who?
North Korea.
Oh!
Tested a hypersonic glide missile. But the only one that has it deployable in the field right now is just Russia. What did Russia just realize? Now's the time for us to go. Because what is Europe doing and what is the U.S. doing? They're encircling Russia. Now they're talking about France and Sweden joining NATO. That means they'll be right on the border of Russia. The U.S. is trying to do a Cuban Missile Crisis in reverse again. But everybody sided with the U.S., but they villainized Russia because that's what propaganda does. It's not the truth. So now, what happened I will tell you this, Russia's intention had nothing to do with the Ukraine. In my opinion, that was one of the things in the military. When you go into a military confrontation, you give a false intention to your enemy so that your real intention can be fulfilled without objection or interruption. And it can't be defended upon. This, in my opinion, is Putin's real intentions and Russia's real intentions. Has nothing to do with the Ukraine. It has everything to do with nullifying the U.S. for good. And guess what, y'all? He's going to do it. In my opinion, it's unstoppable. Here's why. With the hypersonic missiles that he has, and he said it throughout different speeches and at different presentations, if you watch Putin, he tells you exactly what he's going to do, and he does it. With a hypersonic glide missile, the U.S. cannot defend itself against that. There was a assessment called the Common Defense Assessment that was a publication as it was put out by the U.S. government with bipartisan support from Congress, Republicans, Democrats, the defense community, the military, DOD, Department of Defense, the intelligence community. They came up with scenarios of what the threat is going forward was. And in that overall assessment, they said this: in the future, it's likely that we would lose a war against Russia or China. Well, they were wrong in that assessment. because they're not going to war against Russia or China, going to war against them both. There's no way that they can win. There's no way that they can win. And Putin has laid such a solid trap that the drunken conqueror has walked right into it. Here's how. Putin and China and other countries, because other countries need Russia, they don't need the U.S. anymore. So what they did was they made sure that the rest of the world was dependent on them. So now when it gets really, really tough and the who side are you really on comes out, you're going to see the switch. And I will tell you, Germany and France is going to flip. They're going to go to Russia's side. They're going to break NATO. His main thing was to break NATO. And he realized that he had to break NATO asymmetrically. And he's doing it right now. Because now his intentions was to wait until he was ready, wait until his overall military is ready. They just released their hypersonic missiles into field use no less than a year ago, Lance. And then right away, what does he do? He invades the Ukraine. Because what was he waiting on? He was waiting on that glide missile technology. He knows the U.S. doesn't have it. He's not going to allow the U.S. time to get it. So he's going to create the environment that is going to be able for him to use it. And the world will say yes. Here's what I think is going to happen. The fatal mistake the U.S. and Europe made was yesterday. What they did was they took certain Russian banks off of SWIFT. SWIFT is not the big problem because that's just the messaging system. But what they did was they started to sanction the major banks within Russia. They're trying to starve Russia out. Once they did that, now NATO has actually engaged in an act of war against Russia. They were waiting for them to strike first so that they could strike last. So once the U.S. and Europe put Russia's banks, sanction those banks, here's what happens. Now Russia, they can't sell or buy anything. So just like they did the embargo against Japan, they're trying to embargo Russia, which is illegal. It's an act of war. It's totally an act of war. This is why he didn't want the Ukraine to become a NATO member, because if they were a NATO member, then there was an attack on one as an attack on all. So he wanted to make sure that Ukraine never became a NATO member so he could go into the Ukraine and then they attack him. Now he can defend himself. This is what you're probably most likely going to see in the next couple of days. Right away, sent it to Lance when it happened. It was earlier, it was yesterday, sent it to him today. Yesterday, they sanctioned Russia, which is going to be an act of war. Russia immediately took their overall nuclear arsenal, spread it out. It's on the streets in their country now. Around Moscow, they got ICBMs all over the place. They deployed their nuclear arsenal to the field. And today, he gave them told them to be put into special combat mode. That means this. Now all he has to do is to give the order for them to be fired. They can't be fired until they're first in special combat mode. So what did he do? The U.S. and Europe took the bait hook, line, and sinker. Right? Took it hook, line, and sinker. And then they sanctioned them. Now there was an act of war. He's going to deploy those nukes everywhere, and then he's ready to go.
Let me ask you, Brother Dave. There are a few people in the room that said there's no sound. I'm not sure if that's right now or a little earlier.
They said what?
Oh, no. That was earlier. That was earlier on the stream. And I look back at another, because I look at multiple screens to check and see if everything's all right. No, I think it's good now. I think it's good. That was earlier in the stream when they said no sound. Continue, brother. Sorry.
Okay. So now he has his overall nuclear arsenal in position. Most important of his nuclear arsenal is his hypersonic glide armaments. Once they go off, and they probably will be used on their submarines. Russia doesn't care about aircraft carriers because they're not trying to project strength all over the world. What they're trying to do is they stay hidden. U.S. has aircraft carriers to scare everybody into compliance. So here's what has now happened. Now his overall nuclear arsenal is ready to go in the field, waiting for direction. What probably will happen next is that you will see that he will, because they had this overall, he'll call it an act of war. It's probably sometime this week. And he's probably going to shut off the gas and oil, the natural gas and the oil, to Europe. Immediately when that happens, the European economy crashes, collapses. U.S. economy crashes, collapses. So they tried to collapse his, he's going to turn around, and they didn't think this thing through, is going to collapse theirs. And then he's going to engage in cyber attacks. He will probably have his MiG-31s out of Kaliningrad take off and other strategical places around Europe and Russia, take off, and they will start to attack the overall satellites that the U.S. has, the military one and the civilian ones. So he's going to make the U.S. through cyber attacks go blind, and he will take out the satellites. He has the ability and the overall weaponry to do it. The U.S. can't defend themselves against it. So then he'll take out through cyber attack, hit the U.S. with a cyber attack. Obama signed an executive order saying a cyber attack on the U.S. is just like a nuclear attack on the U.S. And then there can be a nuclear response. And as soon as, this is what Putin said, as soon as Europe, as soon as he cuts it off, and they say that is an act of war, that is an attack on us, and as soon as NATO signs Article 5 against Russia, meaning that they go, an attack on one is an attack on all, and they start, and once they invoke Article 5, he will hit Europe and the U.S. with hypersonic glide missiles and nullify their nuclear capable response. Mm-hmm. Checkmate. Mm-hmm. Checkmate. Now what happens? Immediately. See, the thing about mutual MAD, mutual assured deterrence, is this. The thing about MAD is this. You have to be on the same scale. You have to have the same weaponry. You have to have the same capabilities. Before the hypersonic missiles that Russia now has, there was MAD. There is no MAD now. Mutual assured destruction. Excuse me. Mutual assured destruction. There is no mutual assured destruction now, because Russia can hit the U.S. and Europe with hypersonic nuclear weapons so that they could never respond at all. So it ain't mutual no more. And it ain't assured. Only thing is assured that you would lose. Right. And then he can use tactical nukes. They don't need to use nukes that destroy the planet. They can use tactical nukes and nullify. The U.S. wouldn't even be able to respond. And if the U.S. did respond, they would respond again, and it's over. So what will probably happen is Putin's plan. And why does Putin have to do this? He has to do it because they backed him into a corner. They've been trying to encircle Russia for so long, and they've almost got it completed. He waited until they had it completed because he had a trump card, because he knew what their objective was. He knew that the U.S. was lying because, fortunately for him, he's not like our community. We forget and forgive the hand that we shake. He didn't. He knows that everything that they say is a lie. Everything that they say is a lie. So what did he do? He took it and positioned himself. So now, if he doesn't do what he's doing right now, they will be on the doorstep. They can invoke a coup in Russia that kills him, and they take over all the resources in Russia. So here's the thing, Lance, a hurt fighter is what? The deadliest one.
That's right. That's right.
See, they shouldn't have backed this. They shouldn't have backed them into this corner. What they should have did is they had an opportunity to have real mutual relationships, but they chose to be greedy because they're sitting on great resources, vast resources of oil and natural gas. And that's what happens when you develop an appetite for stealing. The only way you shop for food is with thieves' gloves. So now they put him in this corner. Now, when they put him in this corner, they didn't know that he was actually baiting them to do it. And because they're morally bankrupt, that's the only thing that they were going to. They've never been sincere in any engagement that they've ever had. So he's going to cut the gas off. They invoke NATO invokes Article 5. As soon as they invoke Article 5, go to YouTube and look up Putin's speech about Article 5 in his meeting with Macron, the French president. Here's what he said. You will get yourself in a blink of an eye, you will get yourself into a war that neither can win. See, here's the thing with Putin. They're already trying to kill him. So him dying is no longer a fear. But I asked the U.S. and NATO this, and I'll tell you one thing, NATO's going to flip. They're going to be like, no, we're not going to do with this. China came out and said the only problem in the world is the United States of America is the problem. They're setting everything up. China's going to be the bank. Russia will provide the resources, but they're all coming together to nullify the U.S. And guess what's going to happen? Just think about, for those of you that are from other countries, just think about how many countries the U.S. has stolen from. China came out today. Let's see how many countries, let's count how many countries the U.S. has bombed in the 20th century.
Wow.
What are they doing? They're silently calling all of the countries together and saying, see, there is a pariah that we have here. And who do you think that is? Immediately, once this overall goes into kinetic nuclear, global nuclear war one, some people call it World War III. No, it's not World War III. World War III, this is not it. Because this would be the first time that countries with nuclear weapons will go into military conflict. World War II, Japan didn't have any nukes. None of the countries had it, only the U.S. Russia didn't get nukes until the 50s, right? So this is going to be the first time that nuclear capable countries will go into military conflict. This will designate it as global nuclear war one. And what I see this happening is everything going to be destroyed around the world? No. Is the U.S. for the first time, the people here in the United States, they have no clue outside of their overall travels and being in the military and seeing how military hostilities destabilize families.
Yes.
Well, we're going to see it here. because continental United States is not out of reach now. They don't even need to have a bomb. It's a cyber attack. It's not like our grandfathers' wars. They'll hit the U.S. with a cyber attack. Just think of everybody walking around with their face in their phones all the time. Imagine when their phones don't come on no more.
That's right.
Imagine when your credit card doesn't work. Imagine when the ATMs don't have cash.
That's right.
And if you notice all the banks, COVID was just the overall, COVID was the hidden hand.
Uh-huh.
So look at the banks now. They don't even have bank tellers anymore. Look at their hours. Look at the overall supply chain. Everything is ripe for what's about to happen. So right away, they do a cyber attack. The U.S. has never, ever experienced a punch in the face.
That's right.
And has never been chin checked. And if you've never been chin checked, you never know if you have a glass jaw or you have a granite jaw. But what happens is this: the less you get hit in the face, your overall body, your structuring, and your body has never positioned itself or never even prepared itself to take a punch. You know what I see this as, Lance? Remember when Ronda Rousey was going around whooping everybody?
Yes.
You remember when she was going around whooping everybody, how arrogant she got?
Exactly. That's America.
How arrogant she got. Well, guess what? Russia's about to Holly Holmes kick him in the face.
You're right. Yeah.
Go to that overall fight of Ronda Rousey. Ronda represents the overall sentiment and the overall arrogance of the U.S. in general. Watch what happened to Ronda when she really gets. She's so cool and such a champ and so arrogant, and when she beats everybody else up. But when she gets punched in the kicked in the face, look what happens. So she ain't never been right since.
For real.
Next time that she fought again with the Brazilian girl, what was it? Nunez. Boy, that was the wrong one to get in the ring with, and she knew it too. Boom.
She'll found out.
Blasted. Never to come back. She's not even sought after in MMA for opinion or analysis. Right? That's exactly what's going to happen in the U.S. In this overall global nuclear war one, when there is a nuclear exchange and they realize that they can't beat Russia militarily, you know what they're going to do? And Russia did it without having the overall army and the budget that the U.S., because they never had that intention. But what they did have was the overall technical skill. I keep hearing how the Ukraine is holding up Russia's plan in their military operation. Lance.
Yes.
It takes about an 8-hour drive from Donbass area to Kyiv, the capital city of the Ukraine. So Russia was on the doorsteps of Kyiv in 24 hours. And this is from a country that just invaded another. That just shows the efficiency of what they're doing.
That's right.
Their objective is not the Ukraine. Their objective is not the Ukraine. Their objective is NATO and the U.S. And it was brilliant. So when we hear all of this stuff, propaganda is very important in warfare. In the U.S. and NATO has the best propaganda machine. But propaganda is nothing more than wolf tickets until you get kicked in the face. Until you get kicked in the face. When they get kicked in the face, Europe is going to say, you know what? Hold on, Russia, let's talk. We need you. We have a mutual, mutual interest. What's your problem? Okay. You're right. They've been doing this they put us up to this. We didn't want to do this. They put us up to it. And what is everybody going to do? Abandon the U.S. ship. And what's going to happen is that they're going to reestablish a new financial alliance. It's going to be done out of the BRIC nations, AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Banking. And they're going to have a new payment system. They're going to take the United States, put the United States in a position. The United States will agree to this because they're going to want to broker a peace treaty, which is nothing more than a surrenderance. And they're going to say the U.S. no longer can sanction countries for their overall for their overall means and their objectives, for their purpose. They've abused that power. They no longer can take the resources out of other countries. Now, what do you think the other countries now are? Because there's many countries that are nuclear capable now. What do you think the other countries of the world is going to do? They're going to come up with a list of everything the U.S. has stole from them. And they're going to require that the U.S. give it back. Mm-hmm. And then retribution will have to be paid. Who do you think is going to pay that retribution? I'll tell you this, it won't be the U.S. government because they create laws they don't have to obey. They create debt that they don't have to pay. And they declare wars that they don't have to fight. They're going to make the citizens here pay for it. And the citizens here are going to pay for it. This is how they're going to pay for it. Everybody in this country will have a job, but they won't get paid a dime.
Damn. I can see that.
The U.S. debt will explode. The U.S. credit profile will be lost. Credit ranking will be lost. The U.S. dollar will be dropped around the world because we don't need U.S. dollars anymore. We're going to go into a payment system based off of intrinsic value that is going to be set forth by China and Russia and the other BRIC nations and the other allying nations. The BRIC nations is very important. BRIC nations is made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and 25 other nations. Germany, France, Turkey, Iran, Japan all want to join. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to let them join. You know, one of the overall exclusionary countries that can never join BRICS is, Lance? Who do you think? The United States.
They'll be left out.
The United States.
Wow.
And then they're going to break up their monopoly in the financial world, and they're going to break up their monopoly by doing this. No longer can the U.S. be the middleman in serving contracts of financial transactions. That means the spot prices of commodity is gone. If you're going to buy corn futures, you have to buy the actual corn or you have to sell it. If you want to buy gold or silver, you have to buy physical gold or sell physical silver. You can't just have a spot market, which is based off a paper contract. It's theft. It's thievery. Wow. What is a contract? It's just paper. What did it say about? It's only as good as the paper is written on. It's not physical. These countries have physical resources that have been manipulated out of their benefit through contracts that the U.S. writes. They're not going for that anymore. They're not going for that anymore. So in this overall fight, which will be real short, don't think it's going to be, Britain is going to turn. I remember when Hank Paulson during the 2008 financial crisis, excuse my language, I'm quoting him. He said that Britain just grin fucked us because what happened was that Britain had agreed to buy Lehman Brothers in a deal, and at the last minute, the British government said, nope, we can't do it. And they were grinning when they did it. And Henry Paulson, who was the Treasury Secretary, said he called them and they said, nope, we can't do it. He got off the phone and looked at everybody, said, the British just grin fucked us. They're laughing at us. Well, they're going to do it again. They're going to flip because a lot of organized crime money from Russia goes into Britain. So their relationship is deep. It's deep. Same thing with China. So what they're going to do is they're going to reshuffle the financial deck, the global financial deck of cards. And guess who's not going to get a card? The U.S. But what does that mean for everybody here? If you're unprepared for this, the only economy that's going to crash, the United States government's economy is not going to crash. The United States government has real assets and real resources. They have real money. They have silver and gold. Its citizens don't. So that when they talk about the economic crash and the collapse, they try to play it like the government is going to go broke. No, the government is going to allow you to default on everything, because the very currency that you use to maintain your quality of life, a standard of living, that coupon that they give you is going to zero. And everything you ever worked for in your life is going to be evaporated away. Oof. Because we bought the lie.
That's right.
We bought the "in God we trust" bill instead of entrusting in the great creator who didn't give us a bill, gave us an ecosystem of prosperity. But we wanted civilization. And then now that overall illustrious lifestyle is going to switch to the Asiatic countries. Mm-hmm. China, Russia. Why? Because their populations are exploding. They have to calm that before they start to murmur and start to really see what's going on in the world. And what's really going on is that governments are inimical to the everyday person's interests. So this is where we really are. And everyone listening needs to prepare for that. You need to prepare for what you thought and what's been propagandized, that the U.S. is an invincible country. No. Let me tell you, it's more profitable for the system to have the U.S. collapse than to maintain the U.S. at status. Give you an example of that. The value of the U.S. and its resources here is extremely high. One of the things that the system does is they never like to pay fair market value for anything. They manipulate the market value to be zero, and that's when they come in and buy everything up, and then they let it go to its true market value. They're going to let the U.S. has already been built up. The overall infrastructure has been built up. They're going to now let it collapse so they can buy it for pennies on the dollar. And I will tell you, if we're wise, we can re-gentrify our communities, which is the smartest thing to do. Gentrification is not when white people move in, it's when black people sell out below market value. Wow. They sell a house not knowing that the house is sitting on land that's worth $7, $8, $9 million. But the overall system knows, so they come in and they say, let me buy your house. A house is not an asset, it's a liability. It's the value of everything is not in the house. The value is in the land that the house sits on. They know that, but they don't teach us that, so that we'll be price sensitive and unaware of value. You lose every time. You lose every time. So there's going to be an opportunity for us to re-gentrify what has already been corrupted and actually illegally and through manipulation squandered from us. Here's how. If you properly prepare yourself by getting real assets, when everything collapses, those same communities that have been re-gentrified and they turned them into real nice communities, those individuals ain't ready for what's about to happen. You'll be able to go in and buy that overall land back with the infrastructure that's there for pennies on the dollar. Now you won. Someone said, you can't build a society without the need of money. Well, the great creator has built a society with money. You're right. But see, the thing is, you got to know what money is. I'll tell y'all this, cash ain't money. It's a currency. Money is something that has real intrinsic value. So if you're not acquiring money, you're not doing the right things. If you're storing currency, and I'll tell you what currency is. Currency is anything that man created. I'll tell you what money is. Money is anything that the great creator made. If you're just storing Jordans, cash, clothes, those type of things, all you have is currency. And the thing about currency is this: all forms of currency that's ever been created by man throughout human history, every single one of them have gone to zero. God's money can never go to zero. It sustains life. So what we should be doing is we should be understanding the difference between the two and acquiring the one that will give us the overall access and the opportunity to regengify and to rebuild sovereignty. And I will tell you this, it ain't a dollar bill or a currency that man could ever print that can get you that. This is why those that control real resources, they understand that, and they do everything to control resources while they tell the general public that they need money, but they tell them the money that they need is cash. I will tell you this, cash will make you rich. And rich is this, where you're one mistake away from going broke. When you're rich, you're one mistake away from going broke. When you're wealthy, you can never go broke. And wealth is never derived at how much cash you have, but how many assets you control. That's what wealth is. See, when you're wealthy, you can create your own cash. You can create your own debt. When you're rich, you can only convert your currency into money. And I will tell y'all this, the US dollar is going to zero, and y'all, everyone better be careful of crypto, because once Russia hits everybody with a cyber attack, guess what happens to that cryptocurrency? Poof. Lance, it's all digital. It goes back to its intrinsic value of zero because it's a mirage. It's virtual. It ain't real. I don't know about y'all, but I never touched anything virtual that was living. You haven't either. You have to convert it into something that is. Once you do that, now you're making the right conversion. Mm-hmm. So money is correct. But do we understand what money really, really is? Do we understand what it really, really is? And so right now, we should actually be doing this. You can take your currency for pennies on a dollar and get an asset that the market and the overall system is suppressing, because they're suppressing it because they know that it's going to explode in the future. What did I say earlier? They never want to pay fair market value. They manipulate something to zero and they acquire it and accumulate it there. So then when they let it go, boom, it goes to its true intrinsic value. Now they just extended their wealth because they control it. They control it. They teach us to want to have ownership of everything. Put your name on it. Put your name on it. That's ownership. Ownership is an extension of liability. As soon as something wrong, you could be sued. When you control something, you get all of the overall benefits of it. If something goes wrong, there's no liability to you. You can't be held responsible because you control it. Give you an example of that. Your cell phone is something you own. Don't pay your bill and see what the controller of that overall network does.
Right.
Still your phone, but you own. You don't control. You don't control the intrinsic nature of the asset. Very important.
Big time.
Very important. So, Lance, this is where we are.
Yes.
And we've been and Lance, you know, we've been preparing for this for years.
Yes. And we
talked about this 3 and 4 years ago. That was
Yes.
some of our first shows, trying to get people prepared.
I have to say that you've been very instrumental in me making the move that we made. Yes, there were other influences, but from way back, you planted that seed. Although I chose other places at one particular time here and there, we ended up here in Ghana. And I got to thank you for that, brother. And I know it was a good decision because we had a lot of resistance and trials and tribulations upon reaching here. We're here. And while that may not be the answer for everybody, I would just say, just broaden your horizons and how you think. And don't let the smartphone and the computer and social media and the metaverse, or whatever you want to call it, take your world. People can say, well, it's going to touch you. Of course it will if you depend on those things. But if you go back to nature and listen to the downloads from the universe, and just to have a peaceful existence in nature, you're going to have to do it if you want to live. If you love this beast so much and all of his practices and indulgences, then you're going to die with him, because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to die because they could not let go. Enjoy a good day. Enjoy a good time with your land, with your fruit, far away from this madness. And yes, the atmosphere may be compromised, but give yourself a better shot. Don't stand next to the target. Nobody in their right mind would hang out with a drug dealer on the corner who has several hits on him, because they know that when the bullets start flying, chances are you're going to get hit. That's all really I can say about that. You know, you got to do what you have to do for yourself. Talk to me, Dave.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence 777 is absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Food is critical. Food is a form of money. Money can sustain your life. If you're hungry, can an orange satisfy your overall need for substance? Yes, yes, that's money. So when you hear that the system try to teach you that money don't grow on trees, that's lying. So they're trying to get you away from what real money is, because money does grow on trees. Yes. An apple, an orange, a pear. You can eat that and live. Right. But see, they want us to think that when we think that money doesn't grow on trees, what do we think of? We think of a tree with leaves and fruits of cash. Man, the Judeo-Christian Bible. Man can't live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the Father's mouth, is what is said. What is bread? Bread is not a natural food source. Think about cash. What is a slang for cash? Bread. But on everything that proceeds from the Father's mouth. What was the first thing that proceeded from the Father's mouth? Let there be light. And what is light? The sun. What does the sun do? It has an exchange of energy so things can live, so trees can have fruit, so that grass can grow, so the forest can live, so that the ecosystem can be inhabitable, but by different life forms, including ours. Oh man, it's always been right here in front of us. But see, the thing is that we've been schooled into ignorance. Yes. And we walked away from knowledge. Mm-hmm. Your schooling has been the school of obedience. It's obedience school. The great creator never sends you to school. The great creator imparts knowledge through wisdom. Yes. Of ancestral teachings. I'm not a school man. I'm proud of it. My direction has been built through knowledge. And so it's more effective and more sovereign for me. I don't proclaim constitutional stuff that the government gives you. I don't proclaim that. The only writings there were very few writings, and some of the right governmental writings is that in this country we spend too much time on the Constitution. The Constitution was written to subjugate you. You just have to have the comprehension to read it and see it. It's right there. It tells you. Yes. The one that really matters is the Declaration of Independence. See, the Constitution tells you what the government can do, what the government is mandates are to you. The Declaration of Independence is man's declaration of independence against government. because government is inimical to your interests. It's not in your best interest. So the things that we should be doing.
Yes.
You should be acquiring. I tell you, you should be acquiring silver before it's no longer available. You should be acquiring resources. You should be getting ready for this. And when everything goes awry, so you won't have to go out into the general public like everybody else. Because I'm going to tell you, when this war expands, you don't have to worry about the general population in this country does not have to worry about the government. What you're going to have to worry about is what the overall environment and the ignorance that the government has perpetuated, because the government has trained everybody how to riot.
Yes.
And they follow it to a T. They taught everybody, think about Black Friday, Lance, for TV. People stomping, trampling over each other, beating each other up for a TV that has a $20 discount on it. And we already got, a house full, a garage full,
yes.
a barn full of TVs.
Yep.
So imagine when they cut the lights out and the just-in-time delivery system doesn't work, and the food chain has already been compromised, and the supply of necessary food isn't going to be there. You don't have to worry about the government. Your unprepared neighbor is your greatest threat.
Yes, because remember, the TV is not going to feed you.
Just taught them.
When the fire of hunger is burning your stomach and your children are screaming out, "Mommy, Daddy, I'm hungry," and you know there's food in that store. If there's any in the store, you're going to break the glass. You're going to get it. If folks know you have resources inside your home, it's going to be Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead all over again. They'll be breaking in. You can hand them all the money that you have, but that they're going to realize at that point that the money's not going to take the hunger away. See?
Yeah. And it's nothing glamorous about being in a war-torn country. It is nothing glamorous about that. There is an experience that warmongering nations, and we are all responsible for this, because we should have completely not allowed. We should have fulfilled the Declaration of Independence. If these governments are no longer doing our overall interest, you throw them off and start anew. You throw that overall agenda off. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. Is when the government no longer works for the people at the overall will of the people, you're to throw that government off and that agenda off and start a new one. You start one that does. That's when a government can be beneficial through collective prudence of the people. But in mandation and laws of the people, directing the people to serve them and to worship them, this is what we're going to get. And this is what we got. And all of us grew up in this. We grew up into this. But guess what? That doesn't excuse us from knowing what is right and wrong, because we turned our overall spiritual guidance off. Because we did it because in God we trust. It's on a piece of paper. And we've known that to pacify us through what we think is that it's feeding us. And then we're learning not how to feed ourselves. We're learning to no longer have an engagement with the ecosystem, with the overall earth and the overall universe, to be able to never have famine in our land. War, there's no need for it. So I would highly suggest everyone, to wherever you are in this country, you need to make some real decisions as this thing starts to unfold. You prepare for a hurricane when the sun is shining. Once the hurricane is upon you, now only thing you can do is react to the winds that will throw you all over the place.
Right.
Your options are lost. What should be done? You should be getting the necessary needs that your family has, have a plan, acquire real money. You could do that with us through Prosperity Mint. You have the info at Prosperity Mint. We will do as much as we can, but we're limited in what we can do as well. But you need to prepare for the storm when the sun is shining. Have a plan. And if you do that, this is what's going to happen. Start to, in which you all already know, start listening to your gut, because that's where the overall energy direction of the ancestors speak to as to what you should be doing. Start to develop that to where you're more reliant on it. And I tell you, the universe will provide. They stress us out to where every day we think about the stresses and we get the anxiety of, are we going to make enough of their money to be able to live a good life? Guess what? You can never live a good life off of theirs. The only thing that will give you, the only thing that they'll give you is disenfranchisement. The only way to get and maintain your birthright is that you have to be sovereign and you have to maintain that sovereignty at all costs. At all costs. So acquire the necessary resources, food, water, a plan, real money, God's money. Get yourself in position for this. And then when this happens, because you have no control over this, you can't stop it because it's another person's will that this happens. Your will stops where someone else's begins.
Yes.
But what you can do is your reaction to it all is the most powerful thing. You should actually be invoking your will over how you act in your direction. And that could be exclusionary of someone else's, especially in a benevolent agenda. So what you do, simple. You reconnect with who you really are, your eternal side. You reconnect with the universe, the great creator, and everything has already been put out in front of you. And this is another thing you do. One of the most important things is that you're going to have to work. You're going to have to build something other than what is built now. They spent a lot of energy, and they actually took a lot of other people's energy for their agenda. So you're going up against a lot of overall established construction, but that is not going to stop you from what you need to. You're going to have to work yourself through this. Do not bring the lazy attitude that man has given us of trying to win the lottery mentality for retirement. What it's going to have to do is this: if you didn't work, you don't eat. You're going to have to work spiritually, mentally. But what is going to gain you is that you'll become a prodigious saver. And before you know it, you will have enough wealth to give to leave as an inheritance to those that you have yet not named in your family. Beautiful. The key to becoming wealthy is that you have to first become a prodigious saver of money. And the money that first you need to save is your energy, because your energy is a form of money. Look what the overall corporation of America was able to build by stealing the energy of people. So if you reverse that and use the energy of people to build something that's benevolent, imagine what you would be able to accomplish. The universal community will accept you in, but they're not going to accept in a parasite. Right. It's not going to accept a parasite. They don't resonate. The universe doesn't resonate with that because it's a low frequency. You announce yourself way before you come, before you open your mouth or show your face. Your energy precedes you. How many of you have been in a house, somewhere in a house or an apartment, and someone walks into the apartment that you didn't hear the door open or anything else, but the first thing that you could do is feel their energy? Yes. Yes. where we should be resonating. That's eternal. My brother Roz make the great transformation. Roz is actually resonating in prosperity. Once energy is created, it can never be extinguished. Don't let them lie and tell you you die. You know why they say you die? Because you're no longer of use to them.
To them, yeah.
They can't use you anymore.
That's right.
Because it's only your physical body that actually encompasses your spirit, where your will is that's the only entry point that they have an opportunity to steal. So it's where we are. It's what we're going to be dealing with. And it's up to you how it goes. If you can see this coming, then you'll know what to do now that it's here.
Yes.
So, Brother Lance,
my brother,
looking forward to paying tribute and homage to our brother Roz. Absolutely appreciate you, and I know we're here for each other.
Yes.
And just keep me up to date on any and everything. And we'll be ready.
Yeah.
And always say we're never scared, always prepared.
That's right.
Is where we should be. Because once you take away that fear factor, because fear will paralyze you. You won't be able to move.
That's right. But if you don't move,
be motivated to action. That's what a warrior is.
Right. If you don't move, that fear will take you over. So you have to keep moving. Whenever you begin to feel some kind of fear, that's a call to action. You see? And as long as you keep moving, you'll be okay. And direct those movements to something progressive. And keep the negativity and the negative people away from you, because they will sink your ship.
Definitely, my brother. Thank you, everyone.
My brother.
That's there. I wasn't able to look for the questions that some people
put it out there, brother. We have the comment section, and you'll see that, because I'm quite sure this is going to be a really jam-packed comment section. You can look over that, but the main focus was for you to get out of you what you had in you to share, and that's the main important thing. Because if you got focused on questions, you wouldn't be able to flow. And I'm quite sure 99.9% plus another percent, they're happy by the way that you presented everything. And as always, your shows and your discussions and your dialogue is always classic, but not just classic in a popularity sense, but classic in a way that we need, because I'm quite sure that everybody here found this quite refreshing. And this conversation that we had today was one of the all-time best. They're all good, but this one here, you knocked it out of the park and over a few other parks, guaranteed. And I thank you for the time and the energy, because no one can speak this way if they're not well versed and studied and experienced in many areas of expertise, which you have not stated all of them. But it's quite evident that you're a very special person. And these are the kind of people that I want to have come onto the show and talk and discuss, because you make me feel so secure and so good in these times that really most people succumb to the fear. And I have many questions for you in the subsequent days coming up to help guide me, but you have helped to keep me on the right track. And I thank you forevermore for that.
It's mutual, Lance. It's our kindred responsibility, because we're brothers, and always have and always will be. So, but for everyone else, you could definitely contact me by emailing me at info@prosperitymint.com. Info@prosperitymint. If there were some particular questions that you all had, I'll put it in the chat. Let's see what it is. And we're here for everyone, and we just will see how this plays out. You know, either way this plays out, we've already won.
Yeah.
The Prosperity Mint, yes, is our website, but the email that's direct to me is info.
Okay, info. Okay,
info.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. That's our website. Info. Oh shoot, messed that up. Let me get this in.
For all those
info
who,
at
you can go to prosperitymint.com and get your precious metals through Dave, Brother Dave. And he didn't mention it, but I'm going to say it. So go there and know that this wasn't some kind of sales pitch, because he went all around and broke everything down. But as is his calling, as a prepper and a person who wants to be prepared, he's here to help you with that. And he's very knowledgeable, and he gives classes, and he teaches you everything you need to know, and it will resonate with you. He is not a shuckster or a shyster or somebody on a money grab. He lives it by the way he does it. And this is why he put this together. And so I urge all of you to reach out to Brother Dave with your questions and your inquiries about precious metals, because the way he broke this down, trust me, when he breaks that down to you, it'll make perfect sense. And I'm quite sure most of us here already know the importance of precious metals. You know, you're not a fly-by-night kind of guy. You can go and search on LANCESCURV.com and put in Brother Dave in the search area and pull up all the shows that we did, and you will see a consistency that shows how sincere he is and how his walk is in life. Very stable, very knowledgeable. He's a family man, beautiful family, beautiful wife. I mean, you're quite a role model. And in this day and age, with all this foolishness and distractions on our youth, and you're not 80 years old, brother, you're a very young man, so you got it together. Somebody has to have it, and you're one of the few that I know who are doing things right. And I thank you for that. You carry a wonderful energy, a powerful energy, and the energy to guide, because you're a natural born teacher and influencer. And this is what you put here for. It's evident. You couldn't talk the way you do unless this was ordained. We talk about the preachers and the pastors and get up there and just rhyme and sing and scream. And you sat here and you talked. And if you talk for 3 more hours, the people ain't going to go nowhere. There'll be a lot of diapers that have to be changed if you talk for 3 more hours, because they ain't getting up to go to the bathroom. My brother, I love you deeply. And I thank you for your time, as always.
Much respect, much love, and much respect.
Yes.
To you and Queen, Lance, and looking forward. And then we'll catch up and keep everybody up to date. And then we'll keep everyone abreast as to what because there's going to be some great opportunities. You just need to put yourself in that position. And one of the things is that this is the most important thing. Preparing gives you options. Just think about doing Corona, when they shut down everything with Corona. Everybody was running to the store for toilet paper. My clients and I and my family, we weren't going for toilet paper. Can't eat toilet paper. And you put yourself in a position, because you know what, Lance? Preparing is the cheapest thing.
Right.
And one of the fastest way to change your overall economic standing.
That's right. It's
cheap and it gives more, because nothing is wasted. So much love, much respect, Lance. We'll catch up.
Thank you.
Again, and we'll stay in contact.
Definitely. Thank you so much, brother. Peace.
Peace.
Now, wasn't that something? Boy, oh boy. I want to thank everybody for being here. I just want everybody to go and zone out. There's nothing I can say that could add on to anything. So I'm going to shut up and be quiet for the rest of the night and absorb this show. Thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow. Words can't explain. Have a good night, everybody.
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Can't be a real, might get you canceled. The whole system need to this dismantled. Coppers treated like the utmost wanted. Trying to rule the block, but
Make sure to download the app, y'all. Scrolling across the bottom.
with a new take on me. Carrying out the window with the screw face on me. But I know that God love me when my burn. 95 degrees and I can't get sunburn. Wonder when your government don't make me legal. Burn the whole city if I can't be equal. Get off my please, Brad, I earned that. 400 years, how you still ain't learned? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Shout out to the trying to gentrify the genre. Tell them free my middle finger to your honor. In the days coming down the seconds on the timer. Goofy still trying to purchase that designer. About to buy it, learn to grow my own food. Cause I don't like the look they give me in the Whole Foods. And when you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. But it ain't on me now, I'm limping cause my heavy. But ain't sweet, think we thin. My whole attitude on MC Ren. It's my neighborhood now, Bob, I bought that. 400 years, how you still ain't caught that? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes, sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby.